The Endgame Gear OP1 8K is very close to being a perfect mouse. For example, the clicks are some of the best I've tried, as these are very light to actuate and still crispy, without any kind of quality issues whatsoever, and a very premium feel. It seems that Endgame Gear might have finally listened, as I've complained many times about heavy clicks on their previous mice. And to continue on those premium feeling clicks, the side buttons and the scroll wheel also feel premium without any kind of real quality issues. Also, to no one's surprise that has used Endgame Gear mice in the past, the stock feet are very good. And as quite a big positive for me, there is easy access to the bottom screws. The shape on the OP1 is very good for a claw grip, as it does have that semi-aggressive hump, at least on the back, and it's suitable for relaxed claw where you hold your fingers right near the front edge like this, and also aggressive claw where you curl your fingers when you grip the mouse. It does feel natural for my 19x10cm hands, but anything smaller might be too small for me. Overall, the shape is an easy recommendation for a claw grip from me, and the mouse is overall very good and near perfect. The one thing that ruins it for me is the cable, no matter how good it is, so this cable is very flexible, very good. And the waxy bungee makes it feel almost like wireless, but not enough for me. I used to travel around for LAN tournaments about 12-13 years ago. I always had to set up the mouse cable differently for every tournament, and every time I switched the setup, so that became sort of traumatic for me. So I will gladly cut the cable and lose some of those benefits like the lower latency, but the wireless freedom is just so important for me. Let's talk about latency, which is very impressive on the OP1 8K, as I've got the lowest click latency numbers that I've measured so far. And these are consistent with any polling rate, so you pretty much get the same number with 4000, 2000 and 1000 Hz. The GX speed mode is something that does not affect the signal latency, so you can't measure it with LDAT or the XLAT, as it basically just changes the contact point of the switch, meaning that it's kind of like an actuation point for a mouse. I was able to measure some difference with end-to-end latency on my system and the GX speed mode enabled. According to my tests, the GX speed mode is about 0.5 to 0.8 milliseconds faster. Motion latency is also impressive, as this is the fastest mouse again that I've tested. My system is not in the best state that it's ever been, but I'm fairly confident with these numbers. And as I do not have any issues with 1000 Hz and I trust these numbers, the ballpark values on 8000 Hz do kinda make sense. One thing to mention about 8000 Hz mice is that I really do not recommend that you paracord any of these. So you should always use the stock cable, because this for sure has full shielding. And almost all third-party paracords do not have shielding, or at least do not have full shielding. So if you paracord these, you might actually run into interference issues at 8000 Hz even with a wired mouse. A few words about high polling rate and latency in general, as I think that there is quite a bit of misinformation and misunderstanding going on about high polling rates and such. And to start with polling rate, 8000 Hz is 8000 Hz, no matter if the mouse is wireless or wired. Wired mice with fully shielded cables are just less prone to interference, but you can optimize your environment yourself. At least most of the time, and I, for example, do not suffer from interference issues at all. Latency and how much latency we can perceive is very subjective to your own setup and to you, as some people are not very sensitive to any kind of change in latency, and some people just have very unoptimized systems, so slight improvement in peripheral latency will not improve the overall experience. It's about on the 4 millisecond range where I start to perceive click latency, and for motion latency it's slower, so about 2 to 3 milliseconds, and I start feeling that something is wrong. Let's get back to the OP1 8K and talk about a couple of good features, one of which is the coding, which is top notch. Endgame Gear mice have this rubberized, very premium kind of feel, and it's very creepy for my hands. Another very good feature is the fact that the switches on these mice are basically hot swappable, and you can buy spare sets from them directly, for example, if you'd like lighter GX switches. For the price of 75 euros or dollars, it's very high quality and feature packed. Performance is top notch, and as I have some issues running CS2 at 2000 and 4000 Hz even at the moment, with 1K you get that 8000 Hz click latency. So that is very nice. And of course the 1000 Hz motion latency is also very good. So I am happy to run this mouse even at 1000 Hz. But the fact for me is that I will never actually properly use a wired mouse anymore. The one thing that the OP1 8K really does to me is that it gets me very excited about the OP1W and the XM2W. If the implementation on those and the execution on those is pretty much the same as on these, those will be absolute contenders for some of the best mice in hopefully 2024, but let's see about that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you guys so much for watching and see you in the next one.